I think we're live. All right. I see the little ticker ticking away. So, anybody who might be here in the chat, welcome to the channel. J City Reviews here, and have a bunch of special guests tonight. Average Joe Watch Reviews is here. Watch Chris, Rock the Watch channel. Appreciate these guys being here. And to anyone who might be in the chat right now, starting off, thanks for tuning in. I'm sure that as we go on, more people will join us. So, hey, welcome to you guys. Thanks for coming. Looking forward to the discussion tonight. I just want to encourage everybody who's in the chat or who will watch this after to subscribe to each of these guys if you're not familiar with them. Average Joe, he's a personal friend of mine. We got to know that we live 30 minutes from each other. And so we've spent some time together. Appreciate him and his channel. Got a lot of good videos there. Watch Chris. I encourage you to subscribe to him as well. He's one that I go to for a lot of news, honestly, Chris. You know, if I can't keep up with the news, but I see you putting out those videos, and it helps me see new watches and all of that. So I appreciate that. If you're into that and watch reviews too, check out Watch Chris, and then Rock the Watch. He's pumping out videos too, at least once a week, and some good reviews there too. So check these guys out. I kind of wanted to start off with basically just kind of get to know you question, kind of how you just view this whole hobby of collecting watches. So the first question tonight. Let's see if I can get it up on the screen here like Average Joe was doing last week. Here we go. Basically, what is it that appeals to you about watches in general? And why do you like collecting them? It's just a basic question like, why watches? Why not baseball cards or football cards? Or why don't you collect other things? I don't know, marbles. Why watches as opposed to something else? So maybe we'll start with Average Joe and then go to Watch Chris and then maybe Rock the Watch. Does that sound good?
Yep.
Sounds like a plan. So as Josh, you said, I actually used to collect baseball cards. And that just kind of wore off. And then I got into coins, a little bit of comic books, and watches are something that really stuck, and I've been collecting since I was in my late teens, and it hasn't stopped since. And now I'm like 50 watches strong in, and it's become a little bit more than a hobby. I think it's more of an addiction at this point.
Yeah, sounds like it.
and as you can see, my fiance right there, Jenny, she's an enabler, and I love her for it. So I don't know, man. It's just something about a watch when you put it on, it gives you emotion that other things just don't do for me. I mean, I would love to collect cars, but I mean, you got to have like Jay Leno money to be able to do something like that. So
that's true.
At least watches, you can buy them for $10. You can buy them for $1,000. So if you want a bunch of them, you're going to go more for the $10 ones. If you only want one Grail, then you're going to probably have one. So I think it's just how it makes you feel and the emotions that it evokes for me that really has kept me going with this hobby. And it also has an emotional tie back to even my father when he was in a department store looking at watches. And I just remember the reaction he had, and they couldn't really afford it. And my mom was like, you deserve it. And all this, it's just there's an emotional component to watches that I just never really had with anything else. So
that's interesting. Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, it's definitely emotional. There's emotional connection because similar to Average Joe, my father was into watches. He couldn't afford them, but he always had a Timex, and he eventually bought a nice watch. And the one watch that he bought, it was like a thing that we did together. And I was always into watches. I got into watches at a young age, and then he was always into watches. As I mentioned, he was always into cars, and it just seemed like a natural thing that I just was always around watches. I loved watches, and just like cars. I loved cars. I still love cars, and again, like I was just said, collecting cars is a lot harder. First off, I mean, even if you could buy cars for $10 a piece, where the hell are you going to put them?
Right.
So,
Right.
Exactly.
it's easier. It's something I've been a collector too. You know, of comic books and baseball cards, comic book cards. I was big into, and I still have my comic books, and I love all that. But just watches. I was around, I don't know, 13 or 14 years old when I got one of my first watches. It was a Superman watch that my grandmother bought me, and I still have it. It was a fossil, and I love that watch. And it was just something I would just sit there and look at it sometimes, and then, you know, it's the rabbit hole. I was like, okay, there's a quartz watch, and I got another quartz watch and another quartz, and then I was like, what's this automatic stuff, you know? And then I got into that, and then it's, you know, that's it, you know. And I was like, you know, 16 years old, and I got my first automatic watch, and most people around me didn't even know what the hell that was or why I would even want it, but that was it.
And now you're way past the automatics. You know, when you gave your list of grails,
Did you look up any of those?
Some of them,
Yeah.
stuff we've never heard of, just this crazy stuff. I guess when you've been in watches as long as you have, like, that's the level you get to eventually at some point, right?
I say the rabbit hole. I always say that. I've gone down the rabbit hole, and I've been in here for a while. Like I just spend hours looking at watches. Just that's all I do. Like, and you guys know I put out a lot of videos, but the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm literally, that's all I do is I read about watches. And I make videos about it, but I read about them, and I'm constantly, you know, looking into things and reading about things. So
yeah, that's good. That's good.
Obsession.
How about you, Matt?
I'm seeing a common theme here amongst everybody. Same thing, kid growing up, baseball cards, guitars. I was into playing guitar, stuff like that. Had a lot of guitars growing up. I think I've discussed this before. I didn't really go down the rabbit hole till probably 2 years ago, and I just went nuts. And I was just absorbing as much watch content. You know, I was absorbing that stuff at the cyclic rate. I could not get enough of it. But I've always had a watch. I think 10 years ago when my wife and I got together, she bought me a Citizen for like $400. And at that time I was like, whoa, that's a lot of money for a watch, you know. And I wore it, and I still have that one, and I wore that out, and it scratched. I couldn't figure out. The funny story is my father, years before that, had bought me this Victorinox watch. I don't even remember what model it was. But that sucker, it was a quartz, and I beat it up, and there was not a scratch on that crystal. And I just never noticed it until my wife got me the Citizen, which had a Hardlex crystal, and that sucker scratched. I mean, it just got scratched all over it. I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, what the hell? Why is it all scratched? And this one doesn't have a scratch on it. And then of course, you know, now I know. But I went through the whole thing. I think at one time I had like 20 plus guitars. I used to collect guitars. Wow. I had tons into the pew-pews. Had knife collecting. Yeah. Had a ton of really nice knives. I must have 60 knives now, folding knives. So, and then like you guys, it progressed onto watches. And I was like, what's this watch thing? And then I told a story where the guy at work was kind of showing me stuff, big Invicta dude, but showing me stuff. And I was like, oh, this is rather cool. And also there's also the especially with mechanical watches, there's the engineering aspect that I did. Like my mind is blown how human beings can make such little tiny parts to do. And some of those I know a lot of them are made by machines nowadays, but they still go in there and hand file. And you watch those guys work on that stuff and how they put it together, and just the whole engineering and mechanical aspect behind it. I'm blown away by it. It's just super cool.
Absolutely.
So I dig that. And then, you know, men really don't have that many jewelry options. I mean, you got watches, you got maybe cufflinks, you got, you know, you might be able to get away with a necklace, but you don't have that many. So it's kind of it's jewelry too on top of it. It's man jewelry.
Yeah, I agree with that. Looks like Josh from SWC is into the pew life as well. So that's good. I can echo a lot of what you guys said as well. I didn't start young. I had a watch, but I wasn't into watches. But like every kid, I think I collected basketball cards, baseball cards, football cards, all of that. My dad was big into card collecting, sports cards. He had all. Do you remember those magazine type booklets where you could actually
Beckett.
look up the prices of all
Beckett,
the cards?
Yeah, Beckett Monthly.
Yeah.
Yep.
He
It
had
was like
all
a kid's
of those.
stock market.
Yep.
It's going up. It's going down.
Yep.
My dad has a trunk full, like a old wood trunk, just full of basketball cards, baseball cards. So I did that when I was a kid. And as far as watches, probably about 5-6 years ago for me, since I started getting into it, but probably a couple of years ago where I really started trying to learn more about the hobby and such. So I like it is kind of an art form, I would think, too, especially as you get into the movements, like you mentioned, Matt, just the intricacy of everything. And it's just some amazing things that these companies can do. And it is neat to just think, especially with mechanical watches, that you have a mechanical device on your wrist, no batteries. It just works with the movement of your wrist or hand winding or whatever. It's just something pretty cool. So before we get to the main topic, just kind of maybe a little side question related to this one. Is there anything about watches that you don't like? Not maybe something about watches you don't like, or maybe just the hobby in general. Is there something that you don't like, or is it just all good for you? Anybody who wants to start us off, go ahead.
So I could tell you the one thing I don't like is that there's way too many choices.
Yeah.
And that stresses me out, man. I know it sounds like a a rich person problem, but it's a good problem to have, I guess. There's a lot of choice. But I think one of my biggest pet peeves in the watch world is the snobbery that goes on.
That's
Matt,
another topic right there, man.
Yeah, you're right. Like, I mean, you mentioned like Invicta, and there's a lot of haters of Invicta and these fashion brands, and I'm guilty of poking fun here and there, but honestly, I'm not a watch snob. I mean, as I said in the beginning, like, it's about how you feel, how it makes you feel. It's an emotional component to watches. So if an Invicta makes you feel good, and who am I to knock you? I mean, someone could definitely look at my collection and knock me on quite a few of my watches. So, I mean, who am I to judge, and who are you to judge me? So I think watch snobbery definitely is something that drives me nuts. I think, if you're a watch enthusiast, you love wearing watches, then you're part of the watch fam. And I don't think we should discriminate because this person likes Invicta or Daniel Wellington or one of those highly made fun of brands. I think we should all just get along.
True. Well, here's a question for you then in that vein I just thought of.
Yeah.
Because I will never hate on the person wearing it or the person that buys it. Now, maybe if they start to ask, I might explain some of the things to them with those brands. But at some point, I think it's okay to call out, or not necessarily hate, but call out some of those brands that you were talking about with Invicta or Daniel Wellington. Because honestly, sometimes I think, to be honest with you, I think they try to steal from people with what they're putting out. Some of them are ridiculous, like Movement. Did you guys ever see that Teddy Baldassar video where he went to Movement and he's comparing? He's like, you can buy these for $3, these watches for $3 at AliExpress, and all you do is put a Movement. That's stealing. To me, that's, you sell it for $3, but then you slap a name on it, and now it's $99. That's a little bit. So not on the person wearing it, because sometimes they don't know. And like you said, if they enjoy it, man, go for it. Rock that sucker.
Yeah. So Matt, to answer your question, I actually have a Movado video. So 3 reasons why people hate Movado. And that's obviously one of my most hated videos because we got a bunch of Movado loyalists. And, I wasn't giving my personal opinion. It was just 3 reasons why. And I own a Movado. Like, I don't hate the brand, but I just think it's pretty much overpriced at this point for what you're getting. But yeah, it's definitely one of my more hated videos for sure, because you do have loyalists of the brands that if you say anything negative about them, even if it's just not even my particular opinion, it's definitely something that they attack you on.
Movado made some great watches, but then
Yeah.
at some point they got into this whole like museum thing, and they've really But it's
Oh,
I
I'm
have to
sorry,
say
not Movado.
I
I
owned
meant
a Movado.
movement.
I owned a
I meant
Movado.
movement. Look, movement. I meant movement watches.
Movado bought
No,
Movement
yeah,
though,
no,
so they're the
They
same
did.
umbrella. Yeah. They
Yeah,
bought Boss
Movado
and they
bought
bought up Movement,
But
which is one of my problems I have with them.
yeah, I mean they're like a Macy's brand. You go to department store brand. But so is Seiko. So I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. I owned a Movado. One of my first watches was a Movado. Like I was, I went into, and then I started looking at, and I went into this, the department store, and that was what was available to me because I really didn't understand. First off, I'm over 40 years old, so they didn't have the internet that I could go onto the internet
Yeah.
and look and see at that age, and say, well, they had the internet, but there was no, I wasn't going to be using a credit card on the internet at that time, and so I went to the department store and I looked at the watches and I tried on watches, and the Movado appealed to me at that age. I was 16 years old, 15 years old, and I saved up and I worked bagging groceries or whatever the hell I did, and then I bought a watch. That was it.
Yeah.
And,
But do you think there are companies out there like that intentionally try to deceive? Well, Invicta's one of them. I mean, hey,
MSRP.
right?
I talk about this on my channel a lot, and
Yep.
one of the things that a lot of people give me a lot of heat on is when I talk about Rolex, and I don't outright say that I don't like Rolex. I do like Rolex. I want to own a Rolex one day. I haven't bought a Rolex for many different reasons, and one of the main reasons is because of Instagram. I'm going to be honest, like everybody on Instagram who owns a Rolex, and they I think it's like there's such overhype about that brand, but their form of marketing is completely different from Movado and Movement, but they're the same really because they are inundated. People are when you're on Instagram. 90% of watch reviewers, watch people, if you buy a Rolex and you put it on your Instagram, you're going to get more likes, you're going to get more follows because you have an Instagram, you have a Rolex. It's just the facts. Like if you have a Rolex, that's going to be, if you could put Rolex in the name of your YouTube video, you get more views.
I did that today.
There you go. So that's just the way it is. And
Josh is guilty. Shame. See,
I do it too.
no, I'm going to do it. So, yeah.
I suggest you.
I've done it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's frustrating, and that's part of the watch industry and the part of watch collecting that I kind of find a little bit frustrating. That people are going out and paying $19,000 for a watch that retails for $9,000. Just because it's a Rolex. The quality on the watch isn't any better than some Omegas or
Omega, right?
or you could go out and buy a $19,000 Vacheron, something that's not as well known as that Rolex, but people are buying the Rolex because it just says the Rolex name. And I get it because they think that they're going to buy a $9,000 with no one's really buying a $9,000 Rolex because they're all getting into the gray market or being sold under the table to other people that whatever. Some people get them because they are spending thousands of dollars at an AD, and this is all part of the question that you had, Josh.
Yeah.
But that happens, and that aspect of it I don't like because I can't go to my local AD because I don't spend enough money there. In fact, I don't spend any money there because I don't buy watches from an AD, and we talked about in the last live stream. So I can't walk in and buy a Rolex because I haven't bought a Rolex before. I haven't bought anything from them before. So if I want to buy a Rolex, I can't. And there's people who are paying $19,000 and they think, oh, I'm going to buy this watch for $19,000 and I'm going to keep it for 4 years. I'm going to sell it for $22,000. I'm going to sell it for $25,000. When that's not the case, because if you bought it for $19,000, if you turned around and try and sell it, the person who you just bought it from will give you $12,000 for it. They're not going to give you $19,000 for it. And if you try and sell it on your own, it's a lot harder than you think because you're not an AD and no one's going to buy a Rolex from some guy who wants to sell his Rolex for $20,000 because he just bought it for $19,000
on Craigslist, right?
It's not. It's not the way it works. You're not
Yeah.
going to make money on it. People don't realize that. But that's the problem with watch collecting. I think right now.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's going to be like that forever.
It's like watch scalping.
Yeah.
Yeah, people do that. I mean,
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I think that topic right there could be expanded on
Yeah.
for who knows, maybe another session or something.
Tune in next week.
Yeah. And by the way, next week we'll be back on the Watch Chris channel. So we did the full rotation here. So stay
1
tuned
month.
for that.
1 month
next
anniversary.
Friday.
That's right.
Yeah, it's already been a month. Crazy. I just wanted to mention this before we go on.
Yesterday.
This is a good point. You know, fashion brands, maybe in a lot of the bad they do, there's some good that comes out of it, and that they get people into the hobby, and hopefully they can graduate into some better watches. You know.
Yep.
It's the gateway drug.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. So that was a good point by Swiss watch company there. Just real quick, maybe you guys can answer this before we move to the main topic. Just maybe someone's in the chat. They're just getting into watches. Just name a couple resources, whether it's a YouTube channel, a website, a book, where someone who's just getting into watches, you say, hey, go to this site, go to this blog, go here, go there, for a resource where they can learn about watches. Average Joe, you got anything that comes to mind with that?
Can you repeat the question? I was actually in the chat. Sorry.
Just for anybody, no, that's fine. Anybody who is new to watches, point them to some quick resources that come to mind where they can learn about watches.
Go to Average Joe Watch Reviews.
Yeah, I was gonna say YouTube. Yeah.
YouTube's a huge resource, honestly.
Mhm.
I would say like even eBay. If you just peruse through the watches, you can learn just a lot just by just typing in, men's watches and checking out all the different ones. Look at the specs.
Go to Random Rob's channel, who's in the
Random
chat.
Rob is in the chat right now.
That dude does like 2 videos a day. He's
There you
cranking
go.
it. He's got go to his channel. You'll learn a lot. You'll see a lot of watches there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, I think YouTube's one of your best resources,
Yeah, 100%.
honestly. I mean, there's so many watch channels, so little time. It's
Yeah.
like Random Rob says, so many watches, so little time. Well,
Yeah.
for as many watches there are out there, there's a watch channel. So
Mm-hmm.
subscribe to us all, and you'll learn a ton.
Oh,
There
yeah.
you go.
So there you go.
That's one way I learned. I would see something that would catch my eye on Instagram, on Amazon, shopping, eBay, whatever, and look. I'd be like, wow, I've never seen that before, heard of it, and I'd immediately go to YouTube and see if somebody did a review of it and what it was like and what they thought, and then depending on that, do a couple more reviews and then get price estimates. And that's how I would do my research.
Yeah.
I still do it that way.
I like to go. I used to, especially when I find a watch, like I'll go on whatever website, if it's Hodinkee or Worn and Wound, those websites, or I'll go through eBay and I'll just put in the word dive watch or vintage dive watch or something like that. And when I see something, I always go to YouTube because I want to see it hands on too.
Yep.
Yep.
So that's something that's important. So with the reviews, I always make my own decision. So I'll listen to what the person has to say, and you should never only, like when I do a review of a watch, it's hard to do it completely. It's going to be, some of my opinions are going to get into the review, but I may not like something about a watch that is really just something that's personal. So, I mean, I always look at as many reviews of a watch that I can on YouTube, and then a lot of that is just to see how the watch looks on someone's wrist, because I want to see it on
100%.
someone's wrist. I want to see it in person rather than just looking at a stock photo of it. That's
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes YouTube the go-to place, I think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Josh, I wanted to add
go ahead.
one thing, and I just want to ask this to the panel. When you guys get a new watch to review, I know me personally, I'll look at Chris, I'll look at Josh, and I'll take a look to see, did you guys review the watch? And that's how I do my recon. And I like to get your opinion, that opinion, and then to me, that's like my research. So, do you guys do the same thing?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I'll see if there are any reviews already. and
Right.
it kind of gives me an idea on how long it's been out there, who's talked about it already, that kind of thing, and get some general information. Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
Depends on how much time I have. Like I just got
Yeah.
I just got this watch today. Dalios, I think.
Oh
it's
yeah,
called.
Mhm.
yeah.
Dalios.
Nice.
And they asked me to review it and have the video out by tomorrow.
Mm. Wow.
Okay,
So I was
that's
like, okay,
quick.
I
right.
could do it. If you need me to do it, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Because they're
Quick
going
turnaround.
live with their Kickstarter. So I'm probably not going to watch anybody's reviews. I have to watch
Yeah.
Mandalorian.
Don't got
so
time. Yeah,
I'm gonna,
it's pretty cool.
did you
Yep.
get it already? Or?
Yeah. It's, the first episode's out. Watched it this morning.
Oh, you watched it already. All right.
yeah,
all right.
yeah.
Don't tell me
It's-
anything.
No,
So
I
I'm
won't. It's
watching
pretty
it.
awesome though.
What's that
you
on
watched
Disney
it
I'm
Plus
lost.
or
On
something?
Disney Plus, yeah.
Okay.
Star Wars. I don't know if you guys.
I
are
think
Star Wars
the Christopher Schuster here mentioned the Long Island
Yep.
Watch channel. He has a Learn series. I've been helped by that, honestly. I've watched
Oh,
some of
yeah.
those videos. Yeah.
I'll
So
have
if
to check it
anybody
out.
Mark from
hasn't
Long Island
seen
Watches,
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
a very knowledgeable person. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some guys out there, like you said, like last week, Mr. Rangeman was in there. You want to know anything about G-Shocks?
Oh, yeah.
Watch that dude's channel and how to program them, he just released a video today. You want to learn about, like you said, stuff that pertains to what Long Island Watch is doing. He's got a ton of info on there too. Yeah, it's everywhere. There's channels strictly dedicated to certain brands, and you could go down the rabbit hole, like Chris says. It's
Go
yeah.
down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Before we get into the main topic of discussion for tonight, how about we just do a quick wrist check, and then we'll get into that question. I'll just go first. I slapped this on since we're talking about micro brands, so that's the same one we had last week, the Christopher Ward Dartmouth. It's a COSC certified chronometer, so it's a nice piece. I think I have to send it back in less than a week, so I need to put the review out. But
Did you see they came out with a chronograph version?
I think I saw you talked about it. So
Yeah, C65 chronograph. They just came out with it
nice.
today.
What are you guys wearing?
Shout out to my baby daughter who should be sleeping right now. This is the case that she gave me. This is for Father's Day from Madison Quinn. It's the Seiko Recraft in brown.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there we go. So
Nice.
wanted to whip that out for tonight.
Cool.
Me? Oh, it's me?
Whoever.
Okay, so
whoever.
I'll go then. So you talked about Joe talked about his girl being his enabler. She, I got one of those too. And let me tell you something. I had a good week this week, guys. I hit 500 subscribers.
Congrats.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So that was cool.
Yes.
And I got my new to me reviewed for the very first time in the world. My Rolex Milgauss with the
What?
Z Blue dial.
No.
Yeah,
And you didn't tell us?
Yeah,
Get
it
outta
had to
here.
be, dude. It showed up yesterday, and I said I'm gonna do it on the live stream. I'm a surprise.
Wow.
That's my grill piece, man.
Yeah.
That's
Went to the
beautiful.
wrong house.
I got it. I've said this on my channel, and you
Uh-huh.
could, and Matt, you could go look in my channel. I said,
Mhm.
I want to buy a Rolex. If I ever buy a Rolex, it's going to be the Milgauss because it's.
Same.
I feel like it's the watch collector's Rolex. That's all I have to say. About
Yeah,
it.
it's
I love it.
totally different. It seems like all their other models are kind of, and I like Rolex. They're kind of generic, bland, same old black Sea, Sea Dweller, Seamaster, OP
Yep.
and all. And then, but the Rolex with the orange lightning bolt hand, like Joe mentioned last time, and then
Man.
the blue dial is the one. I'm like, it's got to be the blue dial. So this one popped up on Swiss Watch Expo last week, and I said, that's it right there. I
Wow.
was leaning between a bluesy, a two-tone bluesy, and maybe a black Submariner, and I was like, I don't know. And then I started looking at Milgauss. They had the black dial ones, and I said, if that Z blue dial one pops up on, I was looking up. I had Bob's watches on rotation, Crown and Caliber, Joma Shop, Swiss Watch Expo, and this one happened to pop up. And so
That's the green crystal, right?
The green
Yes,
glass.
sir.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can
that's
see
the only
it.
way to go,
Yeah.
man.
Uh-huh.
Holy smokes.
That's awesome. Congrats on that.
That's
Thank
a
you,
big
sir.
congrats
Thank you,
right
sir.
there, man.
That's awesome.
Video will be dropping soon.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, you're jumping on the bandwagon. I see.
That's right. That's right. Yeah,
Man.
yeah. Oh, wait. Does that mean that we can't hang out anymore? I mean, because I own a Rolex now, so I'd be a little. Does that make
It's
me
pretty
better than you
ironic that I
guys?
had to go on that rant, and then you had to show
I
a
know.
Rolex, right?
Yeah.
No. I get it. I
No,
get it.
no. Listen, I love the Milgauss. I love Rolex too. I
Yeah.
have no problem with Rolex at all. It's just the whole BS that goes on with Instagram, with if you want to go buy a Rolex, it's oh, we don't, we can't sell you a Rolex. You have to,
Right.
there's a waiting list, and the waiting list is
Yeah.
years. And
Yep.
we'll never
I'm with
call
you on that one.
but
Oh yeah,
have you
that's
spent $100,000 with us? Because if you have, you can get a Submariner.
right for 7,900 or whatever it is. Yeah,
That's fine. I never pay full price for a watch. I always say that. But if I had to and walk in and buy something at full price, as long
It
as I'm
would be
not paying
that.
over the price, that's ridiculous. I would never do that.
Right.
I would never do it.
So what are you
You
wearing,
didn't pay
Chris? You wearing
overpriced for that,
something?
did you? I'm joking. Oh yeah. So all right, my turn. So I have a few watches on my desk, but I just got this today. This is the Maramusi. I was telling you guys. I sent you guys a text when I got it. I was
yeah,
so
that's
excited
awesome.
about it. This is a watch that is very, very not known in the United States whatsoever. I'm taking off the strap so you can see the movement.
Wow.
Cool.
It's a really beautiful movement. This watch is the machine tolerances are so tight on this watch. There are no plastic gaskets. It is completely made with Grade 5 titanium. There's no screw down crown, and it's 300 meters of water resistance. So it's 100% relies on the precision machinery of the actual metal pieces to get that water resistance. It's an incredible watch.
So the tolerances are that tight.
What's that?
The tolerances are that tight.
The tolerances are so tight that it literally is 300 meters water resistant without having any plastic in the watch whatsoever.
That's awesome.
And the other thing is it's 100% Swiss crafted. So the watch is made within a 60-mile radius in Switzerland, and all of the parts are sourced in Switzerland. None of them are made in overseas or anywhere outside of the 60-mile radius. The cases are made in that radius. The glass is made in that radius, and all of the parts of the movement are made in that radius. 100% Swiss made. So
that's cool.
That's awesome. Because what a lot of people don't know is, I'll let a little secret out here. You guys probably all know this, but I guess according to Swiss laws, only 60% of the watch has to be Swiss made or somewhere around there. And like Glycine, Glycine's cases for their combat subs are made in China. And then
60% only refers to the value of the watch.
Okay. See, so I learned something.
So in full disclosure, I've just recently, and it's going to be announced through their website. I'm the brand representative in the U.S. for Maramusi. So I'll be doing things for them and whatever. This is their watch, not mine. So, the way it works, this is 100% made in Switzerland, but it's not only just made in Switzerland, it is crafted. It's made, physically made in Switzerland, whereas other Swiss watches that have that moniker of Swiss made, 60% of the value is actually derived in Switzerland. So that's marketing, and that's all, that could be anything. So the entire watch essentially could be made except for the movement, could be made in China, and then you have a movement that's made in Switzerland, where it's taken from one of the major brands like ETA or Sellita, and then
Here's a guy below here, Josh from the Swiss Watch Company. He would know more than anybody. These guys produce some nice watches.
R&D, not just the components, exactly. So marketing, things like that, design.
That's something I don't know anything about really. So that's a good topic too.
Yeah. It's
but
kind
brands
of
like Rolex are Swiss made, and they do everything in house, and they make everything themselves. So it's like this, but they put the word Swiss made on the watch, where other brands like this brand right here, they don't want to put Swiss made anymore. They want to put something different, so they put Swiss crafted, which is different. There's nothing wrong, in my opinion, and I'm not trying to knock the moniker of Swiss made. I think that Swiss made is awesome. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, a lot of brands that don't use it, and you're paying more money when it says Swiss made on it for whatever reason. But I mean, yeah, it's just all a game. I don't mind.
Now going back to like fooling customers, there was when I was a rookie watch collector, I would see Swiss parts movement and think, "Oh, Swiss made." It's
Mhm.
kind of like a play. I mean, even though they are correct, they're using Swiss parts, but they're being assembled in Japan, and it's not a Swiss made watch. But yet, I would fall for it, and I would overpay for a watch because it said Swiss on it.
Semantics.
Yeah, right.
Semantics.
Sometimes it's a play on words. What was the one? Was it Shinola or one of them caught last year or caught a little bit of flack for saying something about they weren't really made in the USA, but it was trying to allude that they were made in the USA, but they were made outside the USA. It was one of those brands.
It was
Maybe-
Shinola.
It was okay.
Yeah, it was Shinola, and then there was another
Out of
there was another
Detroit,
micro
right?
brand that actually got into like a whole thing with their watches, and I actually had one on my channel. I forgot the name of it now, but it was a Rolex sort of homage, and
Yeah. Yeah, Chris, you're going to have to teach us how to become, the partners with these watch companies, and be their representatives. I think you're with 2 companies right now, so you're going to have to share some of that wealth.
Uh-huh. His
Yeah.
hustle is real.
Sounds like another topic to me.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, let's jump to the main topic that we've kind of been advertising here. Micro brands, talked about a lot. Really big these days. Personally, like this Christopher Ward's one of the first I've had hands-on with. I just purchased a Notice that's on its way here probably sometime next week. I got the Notice Sector Field with the green dial, so looking forward to getting that. But micro brands, they're popular. Chris, you love micro brands. You know a lot about them. We've all had experience with them. So this question is maybe, I don't know, I guess it could get specific, but it could be kind of a broad question. But basically, what are some things that established watch brands, I don't know how you say, major watch brands, established watch brands, historical watch brands, what can they learn from these new kids on the block, the micro brands, if anything at all? Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Here, I have an example for you.
Oh,
Yeah.
This is for
There you
you,
go.
Josh. Swiss Watch Company,
yeah.
right here.
Yeah.
20 layers of Super Luminova.
Yeah.
All right. So this is from Swiss Watch Company, micro brands. I mean, this watch has, as I said, 20 layers of Super Luminova. It's a Swiss-made watch. It's a quality piece. This watch, when I took it out, I didn't even know what the price was. My guess was over $1,000. This watch can be had for under $500. It's insane. So right there, quality of these micro brands versus like what we were talking about the other week with Seiko, with the lack of quality control. They have the loyalty, so therefore they can be a little bit cocky and say, we don't need to have the perfect watch. I think these huge micro brand or these huge watch companies can take a page out of a micro brand that's really producing quality pieces at some really competitive prices.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, you guys just jump in whenever you feel like it.
Okay. So
Go ahead.
I'll mention a brand that I'm a fan of, Zelos or Zelos. Chris and I go back and forth. I noticed in his video it's Zelos. I don't know what it is, but that brand. Dan Henry's another one. You get so much value for money, and the quality of micro brands is coming up. I mean, they just keep getting better and better every year. You pay for that Zelos. I got the Swordfish Titanium 42 millimeter. All right, for that watch with a Horween leather strap it came with a box, with a watch roll, with a metal warranty card, a nice wooden box, $369 shipped to your house. How can I think
go wrong.
You can't. And then people say, well, how can they afford this? It might be a combination of made overseas. It might be a combination of a bunch of factors. But I'm wondering if these major corporations like Seiko and some of these huge, corporate brands are more run kind of like you see in the car industry and stuff. Are they run more by accountants and lawyers than they are actual watch people? And I think the micro brands are run by and owned by true watch lovers and enthusiasts.
Excellent.
Like
Excellent
I'm sure
point.
Josh from Swiss Watch Company, they have love and passion for their product. That's their baby. They're going to listen to the customers. They're going to say, what do you guys want? You're not seeing, now Seiko's got great loom, but you're not seeing 20 layers of loom from Rolex, from Omega, those huge brands. It's crazy. The brightest watches in my box are that Long Island Islander ISL 10 that's got
That thing is bright.
It's bright. The bezel's illuminated, and that Zelos, and maybe the Seiko, because Seiko's just got ridiculous loom, but but those two micro brands are one of the brightest I own in one of my boxes. So I think there's an emotional, and it's like with anything, maybe with micro brews. I don't know if you guys, we're all about the same age. Remember that fad back in the 90s with beers?
Yeah.
And it was all micro brews like crazy. So you get a bit of different variety. You get value for money is really high with micro brands, and you get love from the people that own it.
More personal.
Yes, thank you. That's what. Yeah.
Okay. Huh. Yeah, that's a good point. How about you, Chris?
I mean, I love micro brands, and I think they offer a lot. And I've gotten to arguments again with people in the comments of a lot of my videos where, a lot of people call me out because I like micro brands so much, and they immediately, when I compare to a watch like the Tissot C-Star 1000 or the
Great watch.
The Seiko
Excellent.
SBDC 061, because I have both of those in my collection, and I've compared micro brands. I've compared Zelos, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
I have an Omega Seamaster Planet Ocean. I've compared micro brands to that watch because a lot of times, and this is me, and again I get a lot of heat on it, but I still do it. The thing is that I feel like I'll get a Zelos, and sometimes Zelos, like I said, I've had a weird relationship with Zelos because in the past their watches weren't so great. They've gotten a lot better over time, and I think a lot of micro brands are getting better. Finishing, finishing quality, things like that. There are a lot of things that they still need to get closer to major brands, but considering the price differences, it's fine. But like I said, I've compared my watches, certain watches like a Notice retrospect that I have. I've compared that to my SBDC 061. I've compared it to my Omega Seamaster, and the thing is that you're getting a lot of those details that you're looking for in a watch like the Omega. But you're paying $400. You're paying $450. You're paying $500. It's not anywhere near the same price. So you have an Omega, and the Omega. I'm sorry, but the Omega, the loom on the Omega is not. It's not good.
It's not the best. No,
it's not good.
That was one of the first things I was shocked about.
Right.
You pay multiple thousands of dollars for a watch, and you think, well, it's going to be the cat's meow, and then you get the loom, and you're like, wait a minute, what? This is not.
There's the difference, and then there's so I get a lot of because I compared the two, right? So I'll say, okay, this Notice, and then I have this SBDC. Well, the SBDC 061 is a callback to the 1970, and you can't even compare the two because the Seiko has an actual proven track record and history. And it was used in the field by this person in the Antarctics and blah blah blah. And I get that, and I understand that. And the SBDC 061 is an insane watch, and the Planet Ocean. I mean, James Bond and like they paid for that, but and then Omega in general have an incredible history with dive watches, incredible history, but. If you walk into an AD again, which I would never do, but if you walked into an AD and you bought a Omega Planet Ocean, if you bought the one I have is the 8500 caliber
exhibition case back,
right?
Yeah.
So if you wanted to go and buy that, I think it retails for 67 or 72 or something,
somewhere around there,
right? Does it feel that much better on your wrist than the Notice Retrospect, or let's say a Zelos, one of their like the Mako version 3 that I just recently reviewed. I mean, there's still some rough points on that Zelos. I'm going to tell you. But it's a $419, $429 watch versus
a 6,000.
yeah. So
Right.
I mean, even if you wanted to buy that watch on a used watch on eBay for that Planet Ocean, you're still going to spend almost $4,000 on it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We're
I think
talking
you can.
about that.
Yeah, I
that
think you can
notice-
feel the difference. But like you were saying, is the huge difference in price?
Doesn't justify it.
Right. Is the juice worth the squeeze?
That
right.
difference, that gap in price is an ocean compared to what the quality difference is maybe a pond. You know what I mean? So we're talking a huge difference in price versus a small difference in quality.
Right.
So a lot of people, a lot of people will not buy something that is not instantly recognizable or something that is not a name brand. So they'll say to me, "Well, I would never ever buy a Tissot because I would never buy, a Notice over a Tissot. Why would I ever do that? Tissot's been around for 200 years. There's no way." And I get that. Again, I understand it, but I don't entirely agree with it. Again, but I have the luxury. I own both, so that's me.
Yeah.
But I'm also kind of crazy about watches, and if you're going to buy one watch, I don't know.
You would say micro brand.
If I was going to buy one watch, and the history of that watch made no difference, absolutely buy a micro brand because you're going to get a lot more for your money. Not a little bit, a lot more. Whereas if you're going to buy a Tissot C-Star 1000, I've done many videos about that watch, and I love that watch.
Me too. I got one. It's awesome.
So, and is it as nice as that Notice? Because I come back to that Notice retrospect a lot when I think about micro brands because I really like that watch. No, it's not. The bezel's not as nice. I think the dial isn't as. I mean, the case isn't finished as nice. It's the bracelet is subpar on the Tissot. It's just
so this point that you guys have hit on about quality versus the price of what you're getting, how can we put that into a piece of advice for established watch brands to learn from it? How can we put it down into a bite-sized thing? Hey, established watch brands, here's what you need to learn from the micro brands in that area. How could we, no one would say, okay, you just need to sell your watches for cheaper. That's the answer. No one's going to, take that advice, especially when people are buying them for the price they're selling them for. So how would you articulate if you were sitting down in front of an established watch brand? Here's what you need to learn. How could you say it? How would you say it?
I think a watch brand would come to you and say, why? We're making money over fist.
Yep.
People are buying our watches. Why would we do that?
Yeah.
There's not a problem here.
Yeah.
But these guys market like crazy. You're seeing billboards, TV ads, ambassadors, actor ambassadors and whatnot. And, obviously that's not cheap, but plus they got these, super factories producing this stuff. I mean, I just think they would just be like, hey, why would we if people are buying them? I mean, Seiko's saying, hey, we don't even need quality control, man. We're just going to pump these watches out and people are going to buy them. I mean, they don't care. They love our brand,
Seiko's always a big one I've mentioned. Still, you're not getting sapphire crystal on a Seiko until you're getting up there.
Right.
And you can get micro brands. You can get a under $200 watch that has a sapphire crystal on it. Sometimes front and back. With 200 meters of water resistance and all that checks all the boxes. And you're right. I think Seiko, they're just like, nah. Matter of fact, they're pushing the prices up on their watches.
It might catch up at some point these established watch brands. Once people start to figure that out over time, they might say, hey, this is not worth it anymore.
Yeah, because you have some crossing over. I mean, well, here's a good one. Where do they go from, in my mind, the progression is micro brand, independent brand, major brand. So when do they go from micro brand to independent brand? Because I don't know if you guys agree with me on this, but I think I don't think Christopher Ward's a micro brand. I see them more as an independent brand.
Yeah.
kind of like Ming and kind of like Manta. I think they've kind of shifted into the higher end because their watches are more expensive than a lot of the micro brands.
That's going to be question number 3, brother.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yep. We're going to get into that. So
Right on.
save some of those.
I will save it. Yeah.
Okay.
And Josh down in the comments from SWC, if you could chime in, because I know you know the answer to this. So definitely help us out with that one.
Any other thoughts? It's funny you guys brought up Loom specifically as one of the things you mentioned. I think a lot of the micro brands really do a good job with the Loom game. Go ahead, Chris. What are you thinking?
Sorry, I was going to bring up I forget that I'm on screen. I want to say something.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Screwed links.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that like every micro brand, and when you get a micro brand in for a review, when I get a micro brand in for a review, the first thing I do is I look at it. I'm like, okay, we got drilled lugs, milled end links, milled bracelet, milled
Clasp, right?
Screwed in links, sapphire crystal, ceramic bezel, applied
Checking all the
indices,
boxes.
tons of loom bezel.
Yeah, the Loom bezel.
Signed, screwed in case back, display case back, whatever.
Maybe titanium.
Boom, that's it. That is a micro brand right there. And then you go into a major brand like Hamilton, the sub, I forget the name of the whatever. Screwed links, great. Beautiful dial, ratcheting bezel. They now put a ceramic insert, I believe. Doesn't matter either way. 100 meters water resistance. You're making a dive watch with 100 meters water resistance when you can go and get any micro brand, same thickness, 300 meters water resistance.
300 meters, yep.
What's going on? Why? Hamilton, come on. All right, you got the Frogmen. You guys were in World War II. We get it. That's great.
Right.
You could do 300 meters, compete. I get it.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Especially
I don't
you
need
mentioned 300 meters, by the way, because I mean, unless I spill coffee on my watch once in a while. That's about it. But I mean,
but you mentioned that I had one of those Pagani design watches. I think it was like $61. It had screw pins holding the bracelet together.
Sapphire crystal.
And sapphire crystal. It was canted in there, but it was sapphire. So that's what kind of where you deal with that. But then you look at Seiko and you go, man, I just paid $500 for this Seiko or $300, whatever. And it's got split pins, like you said, hollow end links. A lot of times a hollow bracelet, hard Lex crystal. I mean, yeah, it's no brainer.
There's your dog.
Here's a special guest.
Oh, is that a pit bull?
Yeah.
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Here, Jackson.
Also.
Here, welcome to the live stream. There you go.
Oh, look, I got me one too.
There you go. Oh, look at that. That's dinner. Look, here's dinner.
Man.
Hey, she's a savage.
I'm a big dog lover, so I don't know if you guys can tell.
Yeah.
All about the rescues.
Nice. Welcome to Junior.
Yeah, what's up, Junior?
Hey, Junior.
Some other people jumping in as we go here. But, you guys brought up a lot of the things that I was kind of mulling over. And Loom was something that came to my mind. I was trying to stop and think, can I name any major brands that have a fully loomed bezel?
I can't think of any.
I mean, there might be some. There might be some Seikos, but...
You guys not watching my channel? What's up?
I'm catching up, man.
I put Eterna. The Eterna
Contica,
has a
fully loomed. Okay,
fully loomed
but they're few and far between.
And not bad. The loom was not bad on that watch, and technically they are a major brand. I think they're owned by City Champ. Corum is in their group. Eterna, and there's a few other like major watch companies in that group. So that's a major brand, and they have. That has a fully loomed bezel.
Does the Pelagos have a fully loomed bezel?
I don't know.
Not sure. Possibly. Yeah, but, we could probably name a lot of micro brands that have. We could start listing them off. Most of the Zelos watches have fully loomed bezels. Notice has some, I think, and all these others.
Does.
The Islanders do. So, I don't know. I think
that's a big thing.
I think established watch brands could definitely step up their game in that area.
Sure, I think one thing that possibly the micro brands did is look at the major brands and say, where are they failing? what are their shortcomings, and then
Good
just
point.
plus that up.
Yep.
You know, people listening to the forums, listening to the YouTubers, listening to watch guys saying, hey, we want screw pins in our bracelet. We want solid end links. We want milled clasps. We want sapphire. We want loom, crazy.
You want more loom.
Right. Loom. Yeah. Indiglow.
Yeah.
So
there was something I was surprised about this Christopher Ward, though. This is $1,000 watch, nice. But the bracelet does not have screw pins. I was surprised about that.
No, yeah, mine here.
I was hoping it would. That's only one of the real negative things about it. I love the bracelet, but it would have been nice to see the screw pins there.
I'm going to be honest about that because I did bring up the screw pins, but I mean, push pins. I mean, once you size the bracelet, and I think that Christopher Ward don't add the screw pins because they do offer that quick adjustment on the bracelet. So once you have it sized generally for your wrist, if you have that quick adjustment for $1,000, that's pretty cool. I mean, you don't need screw pins. It doesn't need to be that easy. So for Christopher Ward, I give them a pass on that because the buckle is phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, guys, we're how much longer do you have? I mean, we got more questions here. You guys want to keep going?
I'm here. Whatever you want, guys.
Keep it rolling.
Because we even have the second part to this question, vice versa. Like, what can micro brands learn from established brands? Do you have any thoughts on that? And it could be not just about the watchmaking aspect. It could be into the marketing realm. Like, is there anything they can learn from that? Maybe the micro brands do a better job at marketing than the established brands. But right now, the focus I want is what can micro brands learn from established brands? Give any thoughts you have.
I think that they could learn to actually focus their brands a little bit more, especially focus the look of their watches. So in other words, when you look at a Rolex, you know it's a Rolex, like that.
Yeah.
When you look at an Omega, you know it's an Omega immediately. Christopher Ward do a really good job of that, and Zelos do a good job of that. Other brands are starting to do, like micro brands are starting to do that, but not all are, and that
takes time. Yes. That takes time. You got to be established for a number of years to kind of put your roots down, to get to that point. Yeah.
Josh is all ears in the comments below. He's listening. So
yeah, let's
give it to him how it is, guys.
To build that brand recognition, because I think we talked about this before. Most people, honestly, that wear a watch, I'm a watch watcher, I guess. I'll watch people and I look right down at their wrist to see what they're wearing. I can't even help myself. A lot of times I'll be talking to them and I'll kind of glance down and see. And I got to tell you, it's disappointing kind of, but I see Apple Watches 80% of the time. It's Apple Watches or smart watches. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But I think most people are not watch people. Nope. So like you guys talk about, if you go up to a not watch person and you say, have you heard of Citizen? They'll say, yeah. Seiko, yeah, all the major brands. Who hasn't heard of Rolex? Omega, I've talked to people never heard of Omega before. I'm like, what? Never, no clue. But they know who Rolex is, 100%. You say Rolex to somebody who doesn't speak English across the other side of the world, and they're going to go, yeah, Rolex, they know. So, that's part of their wicked marketing machine. But I think that might be a struggle with micro brands, is building that brand recognition.
Yeah. I actually mimic what Chris and what Matt said. I mean, it's really because a lot of these guys, they're kind of just drawing straws. They're trying to just get the sales so that they can fund their watch. And you want to have that brand recognition so that like when you see their watch, that it's an original. Because a lot of these guys they're really kind of going homage, and that brand recognition is what you're homaging, if that's a word. So, I think that originality and getting that brand, getting your brand standard is definitely key. But I know, like, that's not easy to do. It's not cheap to start up a watch company and to have all that R&D and whatnot. So they just want to just churn out whatever's popular. And, I guess that brand recognition comes later, but it's not easy to do.
It's tough because an original design is there's no original designs left. I mean, it's very hard to make a completely original design. It could be done, but it's expensive and it's hard, But there are brands out there like Swiss Watch Company, like Zelos, like Notice. They're sort of creating something with a little bit of borrowed from Rolex, a little bit something borrowed from Omega, or whatever it is, and then they're making it their own, and they're making their own watch, and they're, when you see their watch, you realize, you notice that sort of design language throughout their entire line of watches, and that's exactly what they need to do. And a lot of micro brands don't do that. I just recently reviewed Merkur, that chronograph that I showed last week.
Mm-hmm.
Great watch, but I mean, their website's all over the place. I mean, I can't even. It's just like 17 different designs that I don't even know what the hell. I mean, it's crazy. They have a chronograph. One chronograph looks like it's completely different from the other. One's big, one's small. They're all crazy. Like, there's just designs are all over the place. So, it's that design language too.
Yeah. Those are a lot of good thoughts. I think if I were starting a micro brand, I would want to start with just maybe one model, maybe two models, and do those well, do them right, make them unique, and try and find, a design style that, could go with the brand or whatever, that is not exactly like anything else, and stick with those, do them well. I think, even Swiss Watch Company, they don't have a whole bunch of watches. They don't have 17 different styles of watches. They have like 2, 3, 4 different kinds. And as the years go on, they're making more and putting out versions of the same watch. But I mean, Zelos, though, they're one that has a multitude of watch styles as well. So I don't know where I was going with that, but
would you go dive if you were to start a watch company? Would you go diver first, the most popular?
I don't know.
I think I would.
That seems like what everybody does. It's the most popular.
It's safe. Yeah, I would say that.
Safe,
probably.
Right.
But is that more of a balancing act with the? Okay, so if you offer too little, you kind of narrow yourself down to one thing that people might not like. But then if you offer way too much, it's overload on them. So is there kind of a balancing act where you want to offer a little bit of variety, but not too much? You know what I mean?
I would think so. Yeah. I can see that.
I think you just offer like different colors, different sizes, but I think you have to produce that one prototype and bank on that. It's expensive. I mean, I don't know how much it costs. I mean, I know Josh down below could probably enlighten us on the cost of R&D and creating a watch brand, but I'd have to imagine that you have to go with one prototype and just kind of just vary the colors and maybe even put a couple different movements in there or whatever. But
yeah,
there was one YouTube channel joining up with this one Chinese company to make some, and he threw some numbers out there, and I don't know if this is exact, but for some reason I remember about 40 grand. Somewhere around 40 grand to make a full prototype,
Wow.
That's a lot of money.
Well, it's 40 grand to make the whole run, probably.
Is that what it is? Okay, yeah, you're probably,
One prototype, you have to agree to make, so they'll do a prototype for you. There's like a molding fee. It's
okay, maybe that's what it is. You have to agree to buy a certain number, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then you have to buy 500 or something like that.
Okay.
500 you have to buy at the price that they're willing, but the first prototype is going to cost you $1,000 or $500 if the actual run costs you $150 per watch, and then you have to buy 500 watches. That's how it works.
Wow.
Yeah. And Swiss Watch Company brings up a point about just the time it takes.
Yeah.
That original design doesn't come in a day.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, I can see that. Thanks for chiming in on that.
Looks like he's got a price in here too. Looks like it runs since. Got that up there. You go.
Yeah. In the thousands.
Yep.
I heard someone say that if you wanted to start your own brand, start sketching now, and today's the day. Just start sketching, because as as Josh said in the comments below, it's going to take you a year just to get that prototype, I guess, to production at least. So
yeah. Well, I'll jump to the last question here since we're over an hour. It's definitely related to this one. At what point does a micro brand graduate from that designation as being called micro and become a major watch brand? And Matt, you brought up an in-between, independent. I never even thought of that. Is there an in-between a micro and the major? And what are the differences there? When does a micro brand move up to independent or a major brand? Is it something that's just a matter of producing watches for a certain number of years, or producing a certain number of watches? Like, what is the gauge for that?
And who designates that? Like, who says,
Right.
who is the end all say all?
Who's the judge and jury on that?
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Right. Public
Go
opinion,
ahead.
court of public opinion. I don't know.
I have no idea, so I'm really curious to see what Chris has to say about this one.
I was
oh, sorry, Matt.
No. I was wondering if it's because of the huge watch conglomerates, like the Swatch Group and Richemont and LVMH, and that's a lot of them fall under these umbrella groups. I wonder if just because they haven't, certain brands get so big and they're not bought by one of those groups, is that independent? I don't know. What do you think, Chris?
So, I mean, there's a line. I was going to do a video about this, or will do a video about this eventually on my channel. There's a line between micro and independent, and then there's a line between micro, independent, and then major brand. There's major brand conglomerates, as you mentioned, like the Swatch Group, like Richemont, and groups like that. And then there are micro brands. Micro brands are usually in an individual, like a single person or a couple of people who are making watches. Usually most of the parts are sourced from someplace. They're not making anything in-house, and they're putting everything together. Or they may be assembling in-house, but everything else is out of their hands. And I think the line that sort of gets drawn is an independent brand. An independent brand, for that matter, is usually kind of an in-house situation where they're actually making their own movements, they're making their cases, they're sourcing most of the materials within a certain region. It could be an independent Japanese brand, it could be an independent Swiss brand, there are independent German brands, and a very good example is the watch that I have today. That Maramusi is definitely an independent brand because, like I said, they have most of their components are in-house, made by Maramusi, and that's what they do. A micro brand like Christopher Ward, I would still consider them a micro brand, but they are on their way to becoming somewhat more of a independent brand, maybe a major brand, because they're becoming very large and they're selling thousands and thousands of watches rather than just a few hundred. And they're a business where they have television ads, they have print ads, they have billboards in certain areas. They are big, and they are employing many people. And they have a whole agency who all four of us, or three of us, I guess, or until Matt gets a call as well.
Yeah.
They're working with all of us to send us out watches, to let us borrow watches for review, and it's an independent an independent contractor that they have hired that do that.
Wow.
Whereas 99% of the time, if you're reaching out to Swiss Watch Company, it's you're going to talk to Josh.
Watch
You're going
Company,
to talk to somebody at the brand. So that's the difference. Also, although independent brands, like I said, I deal directly with independent brand owners, and I represent two, like I said, independent brands. So, and they're Swiss brands, and they have the thing about an independent brand. I think they offer something a little bit different, a little bit out of the box from even major brands, and even especially micro brands, but even a major brand, because the Vicentera that I showed you guys, that has a 7mm grade 5 titanium globe in it. The watch that I just showed you has no gaskets in it. It's got a movement that's engraved. It's a metal engraved movement with stainless steel parts, and it's like, you know, and it's something that you don't see every day. It is not something off the shelf. It's completely bespoke. The case is, and it, you know, it's snapped together rather than screwed together. It's a weird watch that you would. It's a conversation piece. It's not something that you would normally see. And a lot of the brands that I brought up about when we were talking about Grail watches, those are independent brands. That's what independent brands do. They make watches that are not your run of the mill watch that is, you know, tells time a normal way or has a normal ETA movement or something like that, a Salida movement or Seiko NH35. It's not that. It's something completely different. And if it is, they've heavily modified it to the point where it's unrecognizable, and you're looking at something that's more almost artwork than it is watch now. It's something that's gone a level above.
So would you say like FP Journe and Jacob & Co., those are independent brands?
Jacob & Co., I mean, Jacob & Co. is something else. Like that's like a jewelry brand.
Yeah.
But I mean, he makes some crazy watches.
Yeah, like that Godfather watch and stuff.
Yeah, they're a little gimmicky.
Yeah,
they're very expensive, but they're awesome. But like FP Journe, yes, H. Moser and C, Ming, they're making watches that are, and Ming do use off the shelf movements, but a lot of them are. They have partners that they have made some incredible watches with micro rotor movements and stuff like that. So they're taking it a step above your average micro brand. They're doing something that's, you know, FP Journe. I mean, one of the greatest watchmakers alive. You know, that's just, you know, they're works of art. They are an incredible craftsmanship.
But they don't fall under any of the big umbrella corporations, do they?
They were just recently purchased, partially purchased, by. But they're still an independent brand. They operate completely independently of. I believe they were bought by Chanel, part of which is Vaucher. I believe Chanel. No, Chanel's not Vaucher. But anyway, it doesn't matter. They're under that umbrella partially.
You guys bring up some good thoughts on that. So I guess I'm just trying to summarize some of the differences here between major, micro, independent. So major would kind of be in the realm of huge staffs of people working for them, thousands of watches being produced, whereas a micro brand would be hundreds of watches and maybe just a handful of people, one or two people running the show, doing all the work, producing these watches in limited numbers.
Yeah.
And
most of the actual work is being done not by those two people.
Right. And they're outsourcing it.
Outsourced, yeah. Exactly.
And then maybe assembling it here. Like I know Notice assembles everything in Los Angeles, whatever the case. And they regulate their movements, which is nice. All of that type of thing. And independent is somewhere in between, I guess. Maybe a little bit more staff working for them and a little bit more, like you were saying, Chris, about just kind of doing their own unique things, innovations.
Bespoke, something a little bit avant-garde, a little bit out of the normal, every day. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, we could keep going, I'm sure, guys. We've gone 1 minute, almost 1 hour, almost 14 minutes here. So I think we'll start shutting it down. I asked if anybody had any questions here. There was just one about Timex and Snoopy watches, and Joe chimed in about his channel. Check out his videos on the Pac-Man and some Snoopy and Charlie Brown watches there, so you can check those out. Idle time. But if you're in the chat, thanks for tuning in. I hope that you guys will subscribe to Average Joe, watch Chris, Rock the Watch, all the channels if you're not subscribed already. And I think it was a good discussion tonight. So thanks for everybody tuning in. Thanks, guys, for,
as always, awesome time, guys.
I know we could have gone a lot longer. We could
we could just keep going.
We could just keep going. So next week, stay tuned.
Mhm.
We'll be back next Friday on the Watch Chris channel, so he'll be mentioning that throughout the week, and we'll be sharing more information about that throughout this next week. So that's it for tonight. So thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Later,
Thanks
guys.
for joining.
Thanks everybody for joining in.